Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Nintendo Expansion Pass here as part of Nintendo Power Block's family of content. I am your one and only host, Corey Dirrig, and here I am to answer our question block questions for Expansion Pass. Ed's out at PAX, so flying solo today. We're going to answer, I don't know, we're going to go for about 30 or 40 minutes maybe and see what we can get through and provide a little Expansion Pass content for you. It's been a really strange couple of months. I'm gonna be honest with you. Ever since the bossies were over, I felt so behind on everything, and I'm kind of still feeling that way a little bit, although like kind of getting my legs back under me, 5 months later at this point. So yeah, here we are. I am I'm really excited for the upcoming weeks, because when this comes out on free feeds, we will be less than 2 weeks away from Switch 2. Pretty great. Maybe about 2 weeks from Switch 2. So I'm very, very excited for that, everybody. Very excited indeed. If you want to support us, you can head over to patreon.com/Boss Rush Network. You can support Nintendo Power Block and our family of shows over there. You get Expansion Pass 2 weeks early for as little as $1 a month, as well as the exclusive Nintendo Power Block show, the 1-Up bonus Patreon show, once a month. I think we're switching that to twice a month now. I'm not sure yet. That is a work in progress, everybody. Let's see. Yeah, and at the $5 level, you can be a Patreon producer and have your name shouted out at the end of every episode and every video we do. If you can't support us on Patreon, though, you can support us other ways, like subscribing to us on YouTube, youtube.com/Boss Rush Network. You can support us over there. Subscribe, like, share, hit the bell, leave a comment, let us know what you think. Ed and I have been doing this series of Nintendo launch games for their various consoles leading up to the Switch 2. So you can check out those past episodes. We are all the way up through Nintendo 64, everybody. So we are working backwards, starting with the Wii U. So we went Wii U, 3DS, Wii, DS, GameCube, Game Boy Advance, and Nintendo 64. We're going to do the Game Boy family of consoles next, I think. And I think we're going to throw the Virtual Boy in there. So, Game Boy, I think we'll do Game Boy, and then obviously, like, when Game Boy Color came out, that was a big deal. So we'll hit on those 3 items in one episode, just because there's not really a lot to talk about. And, like, I was too young to remember the Game Boy launch. I mean, I was 3, right? So 4, somewhere in there. So check those out. We're putting those out quite a bit, and they're really fun. A lot of nostalgia trips. I didn't realize that laundry room light was on. That's fine. Let's see here. What else? I lost track of thought because I saw the laundry room light on. You can get the 1-Up show, which we had our let's see, the last one we did, I think, was the Switch launch predictions, which obviously, if you go back and listen to that now, you're going to know all the answers. But the next one, we're going to go through old video game magazines and read the Player's Pulse stuff, which will be fun. That'll be really fun to do. I think we're going to do probably around the GameCube era. I think we're just going to grab a bunch of Nintendo Powers and EGMs and just read the sections. It doesn't matter what year it is. So Might be a reoccurring segment. Might be cool. Might be fun. But right now, everybody, we are going to read a few questions here for Expansion Pass. Let's go with this first question from our friend Sam Hall via YouTube. Sam Hall asks, do you think Nintendo Switch 2's hardware will finally close the gap on Xbox and PlayStation? Or is this Nintendo still in its own lane? So I'm of two minds of this. Nintendo's very clearly still in their own lane, right? I mean, you can only pack so much power into a handheld without making it cost a fortune, right? And we just saw Xbox and PlayStation raise their prices around the world. So, taking a sip, everybody. That's good stuff. That monk fruit Red Bull, I tell you, it's a lifesaver, a life stealer probably if you drink too much of it. So, like I said, the PlayStation 4 or the PlayStation 5 Pro, right? Kind of in a lane of its own. I know I'm not a big PlayStation person, but I've actually thought about getting one just to be future proof because a lot of Xbox games are going over there, right? Like that's not a question. And the next Xbox will probably be some sort of what Steam used to try to do with the Steam boxes, right? And will probably very clearly do again in the near future, right? But at any rate, and also like on Nintendo Power Block, we talked about the leaked Xbox handheld, right? So, which is essentially a Xbox branded ROG Ally 2, I think, is what's essentially going to happen with it. Which I would love to have one, but the handheld PC market. It's just I don't care about PC gaming. I really don't, and I don't want to start caring about it now. And the way Xbox is going, I mean, unless you're like are obsessed with Game Pass, like you should probably just get a PlayStation at this point, to be honest. Like Gears Reloaded was announced for PlayStation, which is wild to me. That Forza Horizon 5, okay, whatever. It's not a mainline for, my thinking with that was like, there's 4 pillars to Xbox. There always have been, right? It's Halo, Fable, Gears, and Forza. Those are the Forza Motorsport, I should say, are the 4 pillars of Xbox. They always see, since the Xbox 360, they have been, right? I mean, Forza and Fable came out at the tail end of the Xbox's life cycle into the 360, right? So, I really don't think Fable really came into its own until Fable 2. I think Fable 2 is kind of the fan favorite of that series anyway. Gears is a huge pillar for them. So, my thought process was like Forza Horizon is a spin-off game. It's 4 years old. You might as well grab some return on investment. Racing games sell well. There's nothing really like it on PlayStation except for the Crew Motors. What is it called? Motor Fest, right? And like, I don't know. There's mixed emotions about that game across the board, right? I think in the community. So Forza Horizon 5 is an incredible video game that you should. I wouldn't be surprised if it came to Switch 2 at some point either. But when those pillars start to fall, like Gears Reloaded is a crack in the wall, right? It's the crack that keeps opening. And so, I mean, what I think once you see Halo over there, it's over. It's done. And I know Xbox is shifting more towards trying to figure out how to get Xbox 360 emulation and backwards compatibility onto Windows Xbox platform that they're trying to build into Windows 12 essentially, I think. So you would have to talk to Windows people about that. I'm not 100% sure how that works, but they're essentially they're trying to fit Xbox into Windows so that they can move forward with PC gaming and like a user-friendly PC set-top box. So Bill Gates ultimately got what he wanted, which was a PC in the living room, right? So which was the big frustration for him over the original Xbox once he found out you couldn't, do spreadsheets sitting on your couch. Then he danced with The Rock and he was all better. With that said, I think the Switch 2 closes the gap a little bit because these handheld PCs are, not as powerful as the Switch 2 or, just as powerful as the Switch 2 is going to be. We don't know the specs on the ROG Ally 2 yet, I don't think. LaRon might know. LaRon might have a little bit more insight or keeping up with all that stuff. I would think that the ROG Ally Xbox branded one would be along the lines of a Series S, which is like a tad more powerful depending on how you spin it than the Switch 2. So like I would say Nintendo is closing the gap in ways that you wouldn't think about, and that the way games are built these days have to scale to power because there are so many different types of PCs out there. Consoles vary in specs, vary in power. Obviously, the Nintendo Switch was extremely popular, and I think third-party games are on board. I think we will see how much they've closed the gap when Cyberpunk 2077 and Hogwarts Legacy and these open world games start running on this system and seeing how they run and what does, how far does Nvidia's DLSS go on this. There's a lot of factors that go into this, but regardless of that, I think these companies are going to try to start making their games scale more because of the handheld PC market and the Switch 2, because they're less powerful devices to begin with, and then you can scale those games up with texture packs, or the next generation of consoles is rumored to have AI upscaling in it. Regardless, I mean PS5 Pro already does with their PSR SL, something like that. So they already have that upscaling capability. And so I think consoles are changing in a way that we haven't thought about in a long time. And I think that's to Nintendo's benefit this generation, honestly. Whether they did that on purpose or they found themselves in this situation, I don't know. But I think having a less powerful device and having these games scale down to it, or being, the Switch being the target, and then scaling up to the other consoles, I think works in its benefit. I think, the fact that Cyberpunk 2077 is going to run on this thing theoretically tells you all you need to know. It has a 40 frames a second mode, I think, something like that. But again, I'm getting quite a few of these games at launch to test them out and maybe do some recordings with them just to kind of test this stuff out and see if it's really gonna happen or really gonna close the gap in the way that they say it is. And then I think you're gonna depending on how these games run and depending on how they sell, right? I mean, this has been Nintendo's issue for years, for decades, really. I think we're gonna have to wait and see what third-party support looks like a year from now. They already confirmed that Final Fantasy VII, the entire trilogy, is coming over, which is an awesome confirmation that we probably needed to hear, and I think that gives confidence to other companies to port games over. Right, Borderlands 4 is coming over. I think it's going to be rare that you don't see a game coming over at this point. Grand Theft Auto 6 probably will not hit the Switch 2, right? So we'll have to wait and see, but it's going to be an exciting time regardless. Hope that answered your question. Let's see here. This comes from another Sam, just Sam. It just says Sam. Sam asks, with Switch 2 upgrades coming and happening, what older game do you hope gets the most love in a remastered process? Oh boy. Man, what game do I hope for? So this is going to be really hard because of the way the emulation works on the GameCube stuff. Like I really thought the GameCube and Wii generations were primed for remastering, and selling for anywhere between $40 and $60, right? We saw Pikmin 1 and 2, we've seen Mario Odyssey or Mario Galaxy and Sunshine right through the combo pack. We've seen, I think Ed and I counted something like 30 something games that were on those generations alone have been remastered for Switch in some capacity, right? Not all Nintendo games, but like Tales of Symphonia is out there and that kind of thing. Full on like a loving remaster treatment. Man, that is a good question. Man, I mean, honestly, I really just want the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD games come over. If we were going to get a full like remake type thing, I would like to see a high fidelity version of Twilight Princess come over. I know that's kind of a cop out answer and probably not the one that you want. There are, quite a few Mistwalker titles that I would love to see. The 3 Mistwalker, the 2 that are on Xbox, and the Last Story, I think, is an amazing game. I think The Last Story and Pandora Tomorrow. No, that's not right. That's the Splinter Cell game. Pandora's Tower. Sorry, everybody. That was part of Operation Rainfall, right? I think those deserve some sort of remasters, and I think they would do much better now because of the love for Xenoblade, and those types of games have grown over the years, right? Like, I would like to see those be remastered in some capacity. It's hard because I've kind of gotten a lot of the remasters that I've wanted, so I would like to see some remasters come to Switch that are already out. The Mass Effect Legendary Edition is one that I would love to see come over to Switch 2. And man, I'm not a remaster, but staying on the BioWare train, I'm actually kind of shocked that Dragon Age Inquisition wasn't announced for Switch 2. I feel like that would give that game a second life and a chance to breathe and make some money. Our people love RPGs on the Switch, right? And so, yeah. I think I would love to see the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy make it over. That way we have all the numbered Final Fantasy aside from online games on the Switch or Switch 2 in some capacity. And 15 I think would work well. I mean, it's a PS4 game, right? So theoretically it would be just fine. And then the Final Fantasy VII remake trilogy is coming over, so I mean that would leave what 16, which sure, but I would love to see the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy come over. I really like 13. I ironically I didn't play the other two games in the series, but I really liked 13 a lot. I love the paradigm battle system. Think I really like Lightning as a character. I think Hope's kind of annoying, but most most Japan kids in Japanese RPGs are kind of annoying. So, um, Fang is a cool character. Snow is a cool character. Like, that I think that was like one of Troy Baker's first breakout roles, right? Was Snow in Final Fantasy 13. So I would like to see that come over. Lost Odyssey specifically, also Microsoft come over. Hope that answers your question. Named a lot of games there. I mean, while we were talking about Xbox earlier, the Gears of War Reloaded, would love to see that come to Switch. I would play that on Switch. That'd be awesome. Uh, so even if it was just the Ultimate Edition from 10 years ago at this point. Man, I can't believe Gears of War turns 20 years old next year. That makes me feel so old. All right. This question comes via email from Erica Jaden, it says, from Toronto. Okay. Hello. I really love the show. I found it because I was looking for Switch 2 content, and I really like the energy the show provides. Energy. Wow. Thanks. Again, a lot of these were written into the Nintendo Power Block, everybody. I'm just answering them for an expansion pass episode. As a reminder. So if you want to email us, though, you can email us at nintendopowblock@gmail.com. That's our email address. Do you think wait, nope, that's wrong. Mario Kart for Switch 2 looks to be wild. Which characters or tracks would you love to see make a comeback? Oh man, they've already shown off a ton of characters. In terms of characters, I would like to see characters from other games start making their way in, which I'm sure through updates over the next decade, because this game's going to be supported forever. I would love to see characters. I think Kirby would be cool. The Kirby cast, like Meta Knight and King Dedede and Waddle Dee, like those four characters would be great. I think the Star Fox crew would be awesome to see in here. Link was actually like a really weird thing to see in there, but just because like I don't know, I feel like out of the entire range of Nintendo IP, like there are definitely certain ones that feel like they belong together and certain ones that don't, right? Like you look at Zelda and Fire Emblem and Metroid and even something like Kid Icarus, and that you just look at them and like that doesn't belong in a Mario universe, right? So I'd like to see things that would fit better. Maybe even some third party characters in there, right? Like uh have Banjo come in here, right? Like Banjo would be awesome. Get some of them Diddy Kong Racing characters in there, and you can talk to Microsoft. I'm sure they'd lend them out. They lend them out for Smash. Even if you have to pay for like that as DLC, right? Third party characters would be DLC, like whatever expansions, DLC, microtransactions, whatever you want to call them, right? I think it would be cool though, like sell a fighter pass like you would for Smash, but a racer pack that's just third party characters. I think that would be really cool. Pac-Man, put Pac-Man in there, put the Sonic characters in there. I know Sonic has his own racing game, but that'd be cool. Star Fox characters would be cool. I'm trying to think of other Nintendo IP that would work in there. I mean, I guess you could put Samus and stuff in there. I feel like I don't know. It doesn't work the way that it works in Smash. I feel like you know. I think you could probably add more Splatoon Squid Kids and the Octolings in there, right? That would be something really cool. Rob the Robot would be cool. I'm just kind of going through the Smash roster now. Duck Hunt Dog would be funny. I don't know how you would drive with that, but that'd be funny. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, Mega Man would be cool. Get some of the Robot Masters in there. Yeah, just get them all in there. Put them in there. Just get them in there. As far as tracks, man, I'm one of the people that champions old Mario Kart tracks, and I think every old Mario Kart track should make a comeback in some capacity. I really loved the DLC for Mario Kart 8. I think adding the tour tracks was smart. I think adding older, reimagining old tracks is super cool. I don't really know what tracks I would want to make a comeback. I really like the Donkey Kong GameCube Double Dash level that's in Mario Kart 8. I would love to see that make a comeback. I'm sure something like that will, right? So that'd be my answer. I like old tracks. I don't care for the old games, but I like seeing the old tracks in new ways. So all right, this one comes from our friend Deshaun Malone via Blue Sky. Sup, y'all? Zelda got its massive sequel in Tears of the Kingdom already. Do you think we'll see a third-person open-world Zelda on the Switch too? Man, yes, I do. However, it's going to be a long time before we see that, I think. Honestly, I think we're going to see, we're getting Hyrule Warriors this year. They want a Zelda product out every year, right? Whether that's a remake, a remaster, a spin-off, a proper, game, right? Man, that's a hard question. I think we will get a one on Switch 2. Man, this is hard. I don't think it's going to be in the vein of Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, I think it'll be that style of game. I don't think it's going to be in that world or that style, if that makes sense. I think you're going to see a new version of Zelda and Link. I think it's going to obviously be the same style of game, right? Open world, kind of survival / action adventure, crafting type things, cooking, finding secrets, finding caves, using the abilities that you're kind of given at the beginning of the game to solve the stuff that's happening. I imagine you might see a little bit more of what's happening in Donkey Kong Bonanza in the next Zelda game, like kind of how you could warp up through the ground at any time if your sensor could read the ceiling. I imagine there might be a digging mode or like a warp down in the next Zelda. I would imagine that would be something. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm really gonna miss this version of Link and Zelda. These are by far, especially like, so I loved Breath of the Wild, but I think it was that whimsical magic of like exploring the world for the first time. I think what really sold me on these characters, in terms of being my favorite versions of these characters, was Tears of the Kingdom. I've always said that I think, I think this is kind of like a consensus thing where like, if you haven't played either of those games before, Tears of the Kingdom, I think, is a better game and the story is better. But there was nothing like the magic of walking out of the cave in Breath of the Wild for the first time and seeing that world and not knowing. And when you booted up Tears of the Kingdom, yeah, the Sky Islands were neat, and the Return of Dungeons was awesome. I think, but it just felt, it felt like you were doing more within the same space, which is totally fine. I think that world's awesome. What I would really like to see is these versions of Zelda and Link go to another continent, like Termina, or which I know kind of is purgatory, but they can write it in a way that makes sense, I guess. Or, or what would be really awesome, it's my Twilight Princess fanboy coming out here. What would be really awesome would be for Nintendo to take these characters, and maybe the first half of the game is finding the pieces of the mirror, shattered mirror, right? And you warp into a mirror into another world, and there's a mirror world, right? The Twilight Realm that you can go to, and it's fully fleshed out, fully built out. And these versions of Zelda and Link meet Midna. Midna recognizes you both, but you don't know who she is because these are different versions of Link and Zelda, but she recognizes. That'd be awesome. That would be really cool. But yeah, I don't know if we're gonna see these versions of Zelda and Link anymore. But I mean, that's the magic of Zelda, though. They're gonna make new versions that we're all gonna fall in love with again. Maybe it's a Wind Waker esque thing. Maybe it's a gritty Twilight Princess type thing. Maybe it's somewhere in between, like Skyward Sword, which was a cool art style. I really still think that Skyward Sword has a really awesome art style. The motion control stuff was not fun. I would say, man, I would say we will probably see it revealed in 2 years. Would put it at 2029. It's been in development, right? I assume it's been in development. So that would mean we would need, man, we will have Hyrule Warriors, right, in the winter of this year. So that would mean a remake or a remaster in 2026, right? Or because you don't want to put two spinoffs out in a row, but we already had the 2D game in Echoes of Wisdom. Guessing a remake in 2026 of some sort, or a remaster, which would probably be, man, 2026 is that's not an anniversary or anything of a Zelda game, is it? I don't think so. No, because last year 2024 was the 25th anniversary of Ocarina of Time. We didn't get anything. So not that Nintendo is great at anniversaries, right? They I'm guessing that's when we would get a Wind Waker or a Twilight Princess, would be 2026, like fall or winter of 2026. Then maybe you explore another spinoff like the Crypt of the Necrodancer, Cadence of Hyrule type game, but maybe you do something different. Maybe you go to someone like, man, I would love to see Acid Nerve do a Zelda game. The Death's Door team. That would be cool. Maybe you partner with Capcom again to do something like the Oracle games or something. That would be cool. Or a Minish Cap style game. Like a true top down Zelda would be cool. And then in 2027, man, I don't know what you do then, right? Well, I guess that would be 2027 would be that. 2028, man, maybe you put a because they can start porting the 3DS versions over to, right? Like A Link Between Worlds, the two 3D and 64 games that were remade for that platform. By then, you could possibly see that weird screen that they patented and have a second screen experience, and maybe port Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks in a way. Although I don't know if that's, I wonder when they put that out if DS would make its way to the NSO expansion pack. I still think that second screen is coming. And that's specifically what it's going to be for, is for that DS stuff. Hope that answers your questions. I think we're going to see something revealed in 2029. And I'm trying to think of how did it go for Switch 1? Let's see. You had, in that first year, you had Breath of the Wild. The second year, you had Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, right? That's what we got that year. That year. Then we got Link's Awakening in 2019. 2020 was what was 2020? Skyward Sword, I want to say, was that year. And then 2021 was was it Age of Calamity in 2021? Yes. 2022 was Cadence of Hyrule. 2023 was Tears of the Kingdom, and 2024 was Echoes of Wisdom. So 2025 would be Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, right? That's that. So yeah, I don't know. I think the next time we see the next new Zelda will be, it will definitely be, I would say the first look at it will be 2027. A tease for it, just to say it's now in development. So yeah, I hope that answers your question there. All right, we're going to do 2 more questions here. Let's see. I have a lot of questions here. I'm going to use one for a one-up episode next week as well. We have so many questions here. This one comes from Stephen Myers via YouTube comment here. Do you think backwards compatibility on Switch 2 will stay fully supported going forward, or could it be a one-time thing? Well, here's the thing. I think if you're going to continue backwards compatibility, they're kind of stuck with what the Switch kind of is, right? They can't go with like a Wii situation again, right? Or a DS. I mean, I guess they could do a dual screen thing, but like, I don't think you're going to see a massive console change the way that the Wii did. So, theoretically, Nintendo has their Nintendo account now, right? That's similar to like your Xbox account or your PlayStation account or Steam account, right? So all your games will move forward with you theoretically, right? Which is kind of the conundrum that Xbox finds themselves in by moving more towards a PC base than a console base next gen. Because that backwards compatibility is designed for Xbox, and those licenses probably don't carry over to PC. With that said, it's Nintendo, right? They kind of just do whatever they want. I would argue that this regime, which I've said many times before on Nintendo Power Block, that this regime is very conservative in terms of how they're approaching the business. I actually think you're going to see a Switch 3 from this leadership before they even remotely try something else, if they ever try something else. Maybe they found what works. Maybe they like this, And, maybe we've just lost generations, right? Like generations are not really a thing anymore. I really um sorry, I got a message from PAX. Where was I going with that? I think this administration with Nintendo is very conservative in their business sense. It's not an Iwata Reggie situation, right? It is definitely a business minded. Furukawa is a businessman, right? And Doug Bowser is a businessman. They are making the decisions, especially with like, I don't know, whatever our government is doing at this point, right? Like they are doing what they think will make them money in the short to midterm and stay steady and have a steady revenue stream and all this kinds of stuff, right? So that's my take. So yes, backwards compatibility is here to stay. I think if they took it away, that would be a huge mistake, especially because of how much they're pushing the eShop with sales and deals and those tickets for Switch One, right? And I know they took away the gold coin thing, but I guarantee you they're going to have another reward program come out. So that's what I have to say about that. Let's see here. We're going to do one more question and then we were going to call it a night. This one is from, can't read this. There's no name on this email. This one is from Lewis. Lewis via email. Hello, Lewis. Thank you for writing in. Hey, guys. Just wanted to say I'm really enjoying the Nintendo podcasts that you all make. I listen every week. I've found it earlier this year, and I can't wait every week for a new episode. I love having a Nintendo podcast on a Monday, and it keeps my week starting strong. My question is this: do you think we'll get a proper Star Fox or F-Zero revival this generation? Or are they just Easter egg franchises for now? All right. So I think, man, if they weren't launching with Mario Kart, I would have said the smart move would be launch with an F-Zero game. I think F-Zero is they've done a lot with F-Zero in the last couple years, right? Like they had F-Zero 99, they're putting F-Zero out on the GameCube thing, right? They there's something else F-Zero that came out recently, right? So like F-Zero is in the minds of people, right? I think they're preparing, and again, it could be nothing, right? Because it just could be nothing. But F-Zero, I think F-Zero is kind of primed for some sort of comeback at this point. What I do think, though, if you go back to Star Fox, right, I think Star Fox needs a total overhaul in terms of how it plays and what it is and how it runs and all that kind of stuff, right? What is happening here? I don't want this. Sorry, I had a weird like beeping going on my computer. I'm like, I don't want this. I think the fact that Ubisoft has made the best Star Fox game since the Nintendo 64, and it's not even close, right? With Starlink. they had that small Star Fox campaign, and it was just enough Star Fox to be impactful, at least in my opinion. And so like you look at that and you're like, man, Star Fox, like Star Fox has to evolve, right? And Nintendo likes to make sure that their franchises evolve before they put them out. And so I think Star Fox is going. What I think would need to happen for Star Fox to be relevant, it again, aside from like a small, hey, this game is $29.99, you can go download it on the eShop right now type of thing. I think Star Fox would actually do like a Star Fox, and people are going to cringe at this, but hear me out. I think a Star Fox Adventures-esque style game would actually benefit Star Fox at this point. Have that mix of kind of like, I don't know, almost like a Ubisoft game at this point, right? Like I think you could get away with a Ubisoft style game with Star Fox, because you look at something like Star Wars Outlaws, right? Like you can run around in this open hub world essentially, right? And then you can fly into space and go to a new planet and explore that, right? And you look at a Ubisoft game like Star Wars Outlaws, and you look at something and you compare it to something like Assassin's Creed, where like the planets are essentially the different continents and the different islands that you go to, right? In Assassin's Creed. And so I think if you do something like that for Star Fox and do some of the on rails stuff to, kind of play with the throwback thing, right? Like, okay, in space, maybe like as you approach the planet, you do an on rails thing for something, or when you're in the planet to find your landing zone, like as you approach the landing zone, maybe you do the on rails thing to get there, or like the what is it called, the all systems mode in Star Fox 64, where like the all range mode is what it's called, right? Where the R wings kind of expand and you kind of get to fly around openly in an open space, right? Like I think that would work as you approach a landing zone, and then you go in and kind of go through these areas and search for trinkets or maybe ship upgrades, or maybe the what is it called, the Great Fox, the big kind of mothership that they all kind of hang out in. uh Maybe you explore in the Landmaster, maybe you explore in the submarine, right? I don't know. I think there's a lot of interesting things you could do. I think you could find interesting weapons to use. Uh, it'd be really interesting for Ubisoft to have a hard look at Star Fox and do it that way. I mean, they did a great job with the Starlink campaign, the Star Fox Starlink campaign, right? It's always on sale. Like you can probably buy it for under $10 at this point. I don't know. I think they both have a chance. I think in the short term, F-Zero actually has the better chance than Star Fox, unless it's a Star Fox Zero port. Um, but I wouldn't put it past Nintendo to put Star Fox out. So, but that's it. I'm gonna end it there. A little bit meatier than I expected, but nonetheless, hope you all were entertained for this 45-ish, 46-minute session of Expansion Pass, part of Nintendo PAL Block's family of content. If you're a patron, thank you for your patronage. You get this episode 2 weeks before everyone else. If you're listening on free feeds, leave us a 5-star rating and a nice review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever platform you listen on. You can support us over on YouTube, youtube.com/Boss Rush Network. You can financially support us on patreon.com/Boss Rush Network. For as little as $1, you get this show 2 weeks early and ad free, as well as exclusive content and exclusive access to the 1UP Patreon episode of Nintendo PAL Block, the Boss Rush podcast pre-shows, and more. You can become a Patreon producer at the $5 level and get your name shout it out at the end of the episode. We really appreciate everybody who is a patron. You can also follow us for free over on Patreon and get all of our base shows for free on one feed. So everybody out there, thank you so much for watching and or listening. Remember to like, subscribe, share, rate, and review wherever you listen. And until next time, we love you. Goodbye. If you want to see how you can become a Patreon producer, head on over to patreon.com/BossRushNetwork. The Patreon producers for this month are Adriel Munger, Austin Campbell, Celeste Roberts, Sana Dirrig, Francisco Santillan, Matthew Keel, Retro Stoy, and Christian S. Thanks for your continued support of the Boss Rush Network.